this is a new episode of the monthly Rideshare Podcast. And I am Kevin, the Apptrepreneur, and in this room we have Mark from Mark's Travel Time.
Hey everybody, good to see you again.
Yep, and we have no one else. We have decided, much like Uber is doing in LA, we have to downsize, so we had to fire some people.
We booted him right out the door.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. They couldn't be here today. They would have liked to, but it didn't work out. But we kind of decided, hey, you know what? Me and Mark talk on the phone once in a while, and we think we're reasonably entertaining when we do so. So hey, let's give it a shot. Let's just kind of do a one-on-one discussion about a few topics today. So Mark, what should we talk about? Should we talk about the Democratic national debate and what a disaster that was, or Burger King's moldy Whopper ad?
I thought that we would talk about washing reds with whites.
Oh, come on. I mean, you've got to have at least an opinion on Disney raising their ticket prices.
Yeah, let's talk about the president's tweets.
No. I want to keep some of my subscribers. Thank you very much. So, no. Actually, we, of course, are going to, you've seen the main topic. Our first topic, I don't think we've ever really discussed DoorDash on this podcast. Mark, do you recall us ever seriously talking about DoorDash on this podcast?
Not exclusively. I mean, we touch on it, we kind of allude to it, but I don't think it was ever a major topic, although it can be today because there's been some big news. There
has been. And in fact, because the news is so big, I got myself a drink. I hope you're joining me this time.
Well, my drink is empty. It's kind of a sad story, but
oh geez, the news was so bad you couldn't even wait for us to talk about it. You just had to get in your system. Okay, so anyway, so this first news story today, arbitration. Now, arbitration is something that we kind of say is a 4-letter word on our channels because of how Uber and Lyft has abused it. But in reality, arbitration was not supposed to be a bad thing. It was supposed to be like an easy way where, hey, if a company and a employee had this agreement and there was like a pending lawsuit, they would just settle it in arbitration basically, and whatever was settled would be considered legally binding, but it would be by mutual consenting parties, and it was never supposed to be a bad thing. But of course, Uber and Lyft and Postmates and DoorDash, they all had to go and just totally screw with it and do forced arbitration, which almost never works out for, well, the employee or the driver in this case. And DoorDash is no different. Now, we talk about it with Uber and Lyft a lot, but DoorDash actually decided that they wanted to follow suit. They wanted to force workers to go to arbitration. They fought for it, like Uber and Lyft, and they kind of got their wish because the case went before a Judge William Alsup, who we've talked about before, in a case called Abernathy versus DoorDash. And Judge William sided with DoorDash. They decided, like, hey, you know what? You agreed to arbitration, talking to the drivers, of course. So you have to go to arbitration with DoorDash. You can't individually sue them. However, Judge Alsup did say that since this is where DoorDash wanted to go, and now they had to arbitrate these cases, DoorDash also had to pay a $1,900 fee for each of the individual arbitration proceedings, not to mention the lawyers for these arbitration. But, just off the top, $1,900 fees. Now, Mark, would you care to take a guess how many DoorDash drivers were seeking disputes with arbitration with DoorDash at the time?
I'm going to just take a shot at the dark and say 6,250.
So close. It was actually, no, that was almost exactly the right number. It's almost as if you did your research before we got it.
Almost.
Well, yes, there was over 5,000, really over 6,000 individual disputes, which DoorDash now has to pay for the arbitration. And the arbitration fees alone is going to cost them almost $10 million. Once you throw the lawyers in there, well, it's going to cost way more than $10 million. And keep in mind, DoorDash wanted this. That all the gig economy companies want to do arbitration. But when you look at those numbers, especially when you factor in that it would be a lot cheaper to just settle, I don't know. You kind of watch things like, what are they doing? What do you think they're doing, Mark?
Well, here's the thing. They have to pay $1,900 per claim just to get that into arbitration. Now, to give a little background, I have had an instance in my life only one time where I did bring a lawsuit against someone. In this particular county, it was a arbitration that they kind of forced on you for all parties before it went to court. In my case, we did settle. It was in my best interest, as it turned out. But what they failed to realize is that all the couriers, the drivers, would have to pay $300 in order to file. Now, DoorDash was hoping, as do I assume Lyft and Uber, I think they were hoping that by forcing arbitration, two things would happen. Number one, there would be far fewer people that would bring lawsuits because they would not want to pay the $300 arbitration fee. I mean, let's face it, $300 for a lot of people, that could be their entire week's work, you know. And the second thing, they don't want to have class action lawsuits. And by having arbitration forced, they could avoid, as a matter of fact, in their legalese said there would be no class action lawsuits. I don't think they realize the fallout. I don't think they realize how many people then would say, yeah, let's go ahead and let's file a lawsuit. And now they are on the hook for all of these fees. So what they're trying to do now, actually your number was pretty good because 869 of them were dismissed. DoorDash claimed that they didn't have any body to them, that they were frivolous. And so they dismissed about 800, nearly 900.
Well, they can't all be valid, you know.
Well, that's just it. So your 5,000 number is actually pretty close. And still, you know, the thing is, it's like you made your bed, now you got to lie in it. And I don't think they realize that, holy cow, this is going to cost us a lot of money. Now they want to say, whoa, back up. We don't want to do this. You know, judge, help us out. And the judge, you know, he kind of said the same thing we are. Hey, this is what you wanted. So now, you know, pay the piper.
But it does bring like an interesting question because I've been talking about the subject now. It pertains to Uber and Lyft. And by the way, I have made videos about Uber and Lyft, how they fell into this very similar trap. They probably went under the assumptions you mentioned that people wouldn't want to file because it would cost them money and it would probably discourage people from suing. But especially when the judge ruled that they had to pay for, that the Uber and Lyft and all those companies would have to pay for the arbitration filing fees themselves, people did not care. They were going to sue them. So I've talked about this before. What's fascinating, and this is kind of how it will relate to Uber and Lyft and everything, but this is the first time we've got like a real number on how much the arbitration is actually costing these gig economy companies. And DoorDash is pretty small compared to Uber and Lyft, which kind of makes you wonder, what is Uber and Lyft paying in arbitration fees?
Yeah, well, you know, I really wonder how much of an impact this really had. I mean, DoorDash is what, a $12.5 billion company, something like that's what they're valued at. Now I know, you know, that the value of a company and their revenue are two completely different things. Well, the company that's valued at 12 to 13 billion dollars, 9 or 10 million, kind of a drop in the bucket. You know, is this more a I don't know, is this kind of a move that we're really talking about nickels and dimes that's not going to have a big impact, but maybe they're fighting it simply because they're looking at the future? I mean, how much can $10 million, you know, with a company that size? It's nothing.
Well, if it wasn't nothing, they wouldn't be trying not to pay it. And it might not be much now, but I mean, you and me have talked about this privately, of course, how these gig economy models are built on turnover. We even kind of see in our own viewers how like there's always a different set of regulars every year, it seems like, because people try it for a little while and they move on, but can they really afford to be paying tens of millions of dollars every year with the turnover for arbitration?
Well, see, I think that's it. I don't think it's this case that is really bothering them so much. It's sort of like when, last week or week and a half ago on your channel, you were talking about the school that had to pay the $300 to Disney for screening The Lion King. And my take on this was, they're not concerned so much about that $300. What they're concerned about, that setting a precedent. So when people screen that movie in larger venues, they can use that as a precedent and say, well, wait a minute, this is you're picking on us when you don't regularly enforce that. And I wonder if this is the same type of thing. They're just trying to close the door. It's sort of like this is just the nose of the camel. And nobody cares if the nose of the camel is underneath the tent. But what you don't want to do is sometime down the road be sleeping with a camel. So I think they just want to stop this when, what did Barney Fife used to say? Nip it in the bud. And I think that's what's going on here.
Yeah. Still, it's interesting, and I can't help but laugh a little bit because, I mean, it almost stems like this is poor planning, because all these companies, they just wanted it for years, and now, at least from DoorDash's perspective, they seem to be paying a lot more than they wanted to the point where they're vocally objecting it, and it almost seems like one more illustration. Like, these companies say, "Oh, we have like a grand plan for all this." I don't know if they have a plan. I think they're making it up as they go.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, these are really new industries, and we can talk about, well, Uber's been around since what, 2009? Whatever, 2008, that's still only 10, 11 years. That, in the whole scheme of things, for the size company that these are, they are, they're just kids. They are learning as they go. And I wonder if companies like DoorDash, if they didn't even do a lot of their own research, I wonder if they just piggybacked on companies like Uber and said, well, Uber's so big, they must know what they're doing. We should probably have a similar policy. And I see that now they might see it's coming back to bite them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. And of course, we do need to mention again, like, even though it's kind of cathartic to think that DoorDash has to pay all these arbitration fees and the lawyers, a lot of the cases can get dismissed. And one of the reasons people hate arbitration, and force arbitration in this case particularly, is because the driver almost never I've never heard a single story from someone who went to an arbitration for DoorDash, Uber, Lyft, Postmates, whatever, that actually walked out and said, yeah, my concerns were heard and I'm happy with the outcome. It's never been that way. So, I mean,
even though and why is that? When you think about that, you are one person going in for the very first time. Most of these drivers, I assume, aren't going to hire attorneys. That $300 is probably a huge hit. They're probably not really going to hire attorneys. They're going to go in and they're going to represent themselves. And they're up against a corporate lawyer that, based on this story, will do this over 5,000 times. They know what to expect. DoorDash's side. If I said Uber, I apologize. DoorDash's side, they know what to expect. And every driver that's going in, every courier, they're doing it for the very first time. And I think that's part of the reason why drivers are not very successful. They're up against a monster that has a whole lot of experience with this. It's kind of like you always hear police say, we've solved a lot of crimes. A criminal, they got to get this right the first time. We got a lot of chances to convict them. They got to get this right the first time when they commit the crime. And I think this is the same type of thing. So yeah, I think getting them to arbitration is only the first step. Winning and leaving that room happy, that's a whole different story.
Right, and arbitration does, of course, take away the possibility of a lot of class action lawsuits and stuff. So in a strange way, I mean, in the long term, DoorDash probably still comes out ahead. I mean, if I were DoorDash, the company, I would still prefer it to be this way, because it definitely it definitely tilts the cards way more in your favor than it does the driver. I just think it was extremely hilarious that they were completely caught off guard by how much they were going to be spending on this, how much they could potentially be spending in a while. Because, I mean, one of the things that's kind of scary, Uber's worth, well, I don't know what they're worth anymore, to be honest, but I think they're worth more than $10 billion. So, I mean,
Oh yeah.
a $10 million arbitration every 4 months, probably that is a nickel in the bucket. But a $10 million or more arbitration for DoorDash, which is a $2 billion company, that would eventually eat away at you if you had to do that a few times a year for the next 5 to 10 years. So I just think it's very interesting that, they really, I don't know how well they thought it through. I mean, I think they've thought it through so little that they're complaining and protesting it when it still technically benefits them in the long run to do it this way.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. I mean, it's accomplishing what they want to accomplish, and that is curtailing class action lawsuits.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. So anyway, I thought that was like really funny. It's in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really help the drivers very much. In fact, I think they would have been better off not having to follow this forced arbitration. I've shared my opinions on that before, but let's talk about something that has way more of a gray area, so much of a gray area that even though I talked about this on my channel yesterday, I wanted to bounce it off of someone because I think this was just crazy. So for those of you who did not go to my channel yesterday because you only come when Cecily and Mark are here, well, here's what happened. Uber unleashed a new safety feature. They call it a safety feature, and technically that's what it is, but it's been dubbed the Snitch program. And what it is if you're a rider, this is not for the drivers, of course, this is for the riders. You're taking an Uber, and let's say you start feeling unsafe. Well, of course, the first thing Uber recommends is if you feel your life is in danger, call 911 or, try to get out of the vehicle if possible, get real help. However, if you don't feel like your life is in danger, but you don't feel safe either, you can use this safety feature. And for those of you who are listening to this as audio only, I'm doing air quotations. And you can let Uber know in real time that you feel unsafe with the driver. Now, on paper, at first, a lot of people would say this doesn't sound like that big of a deal. As someone who has been talking about Uber for a long time, who drove for a couple of years, my opinion of this was drivers, make sure you have a dash cam more than ever, because this is a red flag. This seems like this could be abused way more than it could, because I had a hard time grasping the concept of it's like, okay, if it's not an emergency, then basically, yeah, you're nitpicking or you're tattling, you're trying to get a free ride. If you are truly not feeling safe, you would be doing their 911 assistance button or something like that. But no, they've now created this little feature that you can report them. And if you're reporting a safety concern mid-trip, that person could probably, in theory, get deactivated after that trip. It's being done in real time, and who knows when you can appeal it, of course. And we've already got the little mini Uber con artists out there who will threaten you with negative feedback, or they will report you for false things because they want a free ride. And this just seems like they made scamming the drivers and getting them deactivated way, way easier. Now, those were my thoughts. But Mark, what's your opinion of this? Do you have a different opinion? How do you see this safety/snitch feature on the Uber app now?
I had the exact same thoughts, and even to a greater degree, because the way I see it, and drivers that are watching this, most of the people watching this are drivers, know that there are a lot of people that do complain in an effort to get a free ride. Well, here is what's going to start happening, at least the way that I see it. They have made it so easy, literally the touch of a button, for them to crab at Uber. Some of the examples they give here, I'm looking at the report right here. Examples are harsh braking and inappropriate remarks. Well, good Lord, that could mean almost anything. You know, if
Wait, inappropriate
someone starts
remarks can
talking
be flagged?
politics, what's that?
Inappropriate comments can be flagged and get you deactivated?
Well, I don't know if they'll get you deactivated, but it's going to get you a complaint. What happens when you get a complaint? They'll probably deactivate. The thing is, in the past, we know this has happened, but it takes some other steps. It takes people to at least dig through, make a complaint, that type of thing. Now it's right there in front of them. It's immediate. You know, something happens. Oh, you're ready to go through the yellow light and it changes red, so you brake a little quickly and that, because you don't want to get a red light ticket or whatever. And now, harsh braking. You start doing something that we probably should be smart enough not to do, but nevertheless, it doesn't mean you're being nasty or rude. And I'm talking about politics, maybe putting on music that they don't like. I don't like this. It makes me feel unsafe. It's an inappropriate remark. I think it makes it too simple for people to work off of knee-jerk reactions and emotions. And it's now become official, because once they hit that button, it's no longer, hey, I'm going to think about this for a little bit, and maybe upon reflection, it's not that big a deal, I'm not going to call it in. But when it's immediate, in the moment, how many times have we got emotional, we've got charged up, maybe we're angry with someone, and we say something later on, we say, hey man, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to say that, I was just kind of worked up. Well, you know what? It's a little hard to retract that. When you are a rider and in the moment, you push that button and you report a driver, and what's the driver to do now? Because like you said, their livelihood, their job is on the line. And even if it's just for a couple of days and they do get reactivated, I don't know what the procedure is in order to refute that, because all the stories I'm seeing are just telling how to use it, how to report a driver. I'm not seeing anything on the, talk about arbitration. I'm not seeing anything on the driver's side of what I can do in response to this.
Right. And you brought up something that I didn't even think about. What if the passenger is just having a bad day? They get in the vehicle. I don't know about you. I've actually picked up, you've probably done this too. I've picked up, I'd say about 2 to 3 dozen passengers who, as I'm picking them up, they're breaking up with their boyfriend. And they are.
Oh yeah. How about people that have just had a little too much to drink?
Well, yeah, they've had. Well, I mentioned that in my video earlier. If you're, I actually said I'm most curious about what's this going to do around 2 a.m. when people are drunk and they're impaired, and who knows what they're thinking at that time. It's really scary. And I even think back some of the old rides, little innocent things at the time, that would that get me in trouble? For example, I just because we now have the option of video now, I'll show my 90s street or millennium street cred. I drove around Uber playing music off this puppy. Classic. This thing has over 16,000 songs in it, by the way, all legally bought on CDs and ripped, by the way. And I put on the random play all thing. Because of this feature, I hadn't thought about this for a long time. Someone got
I have a random play all thing. It's called the radio.
I like without commercials, so But anyway, someone got in the car, and they were kind of sitting there, and they're like, "Is this religious music?" And it didn't dawn on me. Oh, there was a Michael W. Smith song playing. I'm like, "Oh, it is. I'm sorry. Do you want me to skip?" And they're like, "Yeah, I prefer not to listen to it." It's like, "Oh, okay, sure, fine." I just press the next button. But what if this feature had existed at that time? That's not a big deal to a lot of people, but at the time, they're in their hand. They're a little miffed that they had to listen to just a few seconds of that. Are they going to say, "I don't like the music you played"? It's and now you're flagged for inappropriate music. I mean, it's.
Or you're a little late going there. You're going down. Maybe the app directs you down a one-way street or something that's now under construction and that's not picked up in your destination, and so it takes you a few minutes longer. Are they going to now report you? Because I suspect this is not because inappropriate remarks and harsh braking is that really safety? I think people are going to look at this as a license to gripe. Now, here's another thing that I wonder about, Kevin, that I'd like to run by you. Because one of the things last week I reported on I commented on the dial a Uber. And one of the things I commented on was, it seems like it's going to be labor intensive. That right now, in standard practice, you just order the Uber and there's no middleman. You order it and it's all done through the app, right? Now with the dial an Uber, man, now you have to have people monitoring and people talking and people walking people. I mean, if people don't understand how to use an app that they got to call up, they're going to have a lot of questions. And I thought that's going to be labor intensive. But what happens now when suddenly their complaint machine is kicked into overdrive? Who is really going to be there monitoring all this? Or is it not going to be monitored? Is it just going to be one of these things that I haven't tried it yet? I did see the video. I don't know if anyone realized that, but if you're a passenger, I use Uber a lot, and I got this in my email from Uber, and they linked it to a YouTube video showing you how to use it. Mm-hmm. Now, if people just have a laundry list of things to pick from, then it's just an automatic process, and it completely bypasses any anyone looking at it and, saying, yeah, this is legitimate and this isn't. If it's not automatic, then you have a lot of man hours of people having to weed through this. Either way, I think it's an incredibly flawed system.
All right. Well, and it's definitely the least welcome addition to the Uber app since the ability to rate your driver mid-trip, because, we all know that that's not going to be abused. Yeah, and again, we don't even know, like, they don't tell us right now if this is going to lead to deactivations. I'm assuming it will, but then if the system gets cluttered with deactivations and complaints, I mean, the appeals process, if you even have one, is so difficult as it is. I mean, imagine getting back on, imagine this horror story where I mean, let's just say, because, I mean, I'll try to say something that shouldn't be controversial, but could potentially be controversial to a random driver. Let's say you're driving down Hollywood Boulevard because YouTube is advertising more of their shows on everything, and you see a poster for the new Logan Paul movie, and you're like, well, that guy's an a-hole. Or heck, not even that, a jerk. Just say, that guy's a jerk. The person in your car, they happen to like Logan Paul. For God knows whatever reason, they love Logan Paul. And they open as like,
is he even relevant anymore?
I'm trying to be as least offensive as possible here. But, could a random comment like that now land you a complaint that you were rude?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I'm wondering. I mean,
see, Kevin, that's my point. If it is this going to turn into just a complaint line, or is it really going to be safety related? And the only way that they can keep that is by putting in a laundry list, and then they'll always have to have that other, and that's where people start griping. It'll be interesting to see how it rolls out, but I cannot see this as being very positive.
And I don't believe for 1 second this is a safety feature, because even Uber, who, by the way, implemented this because we saw that horrible video where the guy basically kidnapped the 2 passengers in a speed chase, which was, that was terrifying to watch.
But, when you think about that, they were on the horn with 911 at the time.
Yeah.
Is the Uber little safety feature going to be better than being on the phone with 911?
Oh no, it's not. And Uber even says this is not for emergencies, which is strange because, well, what's it for then? I mean, they did it because it's like they had to respond to this. It's kind of like the say my name thing. It's like that didn't have anything to do with Uber or Lyft, but hey, their name's being dragged in, so they have to respond to that
Can
situation
we
somehow.
Can we see it right here? Say my. I don't think you can barely see it.
No,
there
no, remember, no, the break.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
But that's why I hung that up, because of that "Say My Name" fiasco.
I think you're abusing the video format. We should probably go back to audio at some point.
Come on.
But
What? Are you just a little jealous because I have a more interesting set right now?
well, my interesting set is over there. Hey, I've got a Live by Night poster signed by Ben Affleck and almost the entire crew, and a Princess and the Frog poster signed by all the animators, Randy Newman, the director. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah, I'm sure you would like to have at least one of those.
No, you know what I want to have, to get a little off topic. Have you seen Adam the Woo's Back to the Future poster?
Yes.
Good Lord, it's signed by everybody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Anyway, let's get back on topic.
Let's get back.
Hey, we might be beating this one to death. Do you want to talk at all about Uber laying off, closing the LA office?
Yeah. Well, yes, especially since, as I mentioned before, we have our own budget problems, so we had to let Mike and Cecily go. Okay, I'm sorry. That's for people who might be coming into this a little late. Yeah, I'm almost like, I reported on that a couple days ago, and it's fascinating to me in the sense that they're laying off, the story of them laying off a bunch of employees has actually got common enough. I'm getting bored of the topic. And that realization made me realize they're doing this way too much. A stable company does not lay this many people off this many times. Well, this was actually one of like the lesser layoffs, if you stop and think about it. Like only 80 people lost their job compared to like the hundreds that have lost their job in previous closures. But it's like, what I thought was fascinating, that Uber didn't even really try to justify it this time. Before, they were like, hey, we're all fine, we're refocusing. And then one person said, one time I remember they laid 600 people or something off, and the response was, we are continuing to grow, and to grow, we need to lay people off, which is like, what? I kind of feel like that time when I first went to Starbucks and I asked for a small, and they're like, oh no, we don't have small, we have tall. And I asked, like, well, isn't that the opposite of small? And it's like, isn't saying we intend to grow, isn't laying people off the opposite of grow?
Well, I'll tell you what struck me in this. I'm not hearing a lot of people talk about. They said that they are moving the jobs to Manila and the Philippines. And boy, because let's face it, everybody wants to talk to someone in a foreign country when they need support issues. Now, I don't know what the jobs are, but if it's the Los Angeles office and now they are, because what they're trying to do, there's so many things wrong with this. Uber likes to position themselves as the champion of the downtrodden, and I haven't seen those ads in a long time, but remember when they used to run the ads showing, some poor immigrant, and this was the only job that he could get, and, I can't get a job because I have, a physical limitation, but I can drive for Uber, and they really wanted to make themselves like the champions.
Well,
and
how
now,
many jobs did they create out of thin air when they started?
Yeah, and now all they're doing is they are finding the cheapest labor they possibly can. And I'm wondering, are those people that are filling the roles in the Philippines and Manila, are they really even giving them a living wage? Or are they just doing everything they can to nickel and dime in order to try to show a profit? I don't have these answers, okay? I'm not making an accusation, but I think it's a legitimate question to raise.
I mean, if they are interested in, here's like a little thought experiment here, but I mean, I know that you're probably right. They just want to save as much money as possible. But hey, let's say that they were like, hey, we honestly feel we want to be there for middle America. We want to create jobs for people, but we do need to save money. Why don't you close your office in LA, but you reopen it in a city or a state where the rent is significantly lower, and maybe even the minimum wage isn't even as high, and save a little money that way? Then it's like, okay, you get to save your money and you get to claim like, hey, these areas where there's not a lot of jobs, we are creating jobs. That's what we do at Uber. We create jobs for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would have been like I think that would have been a way to turn a negative into a positive. Although you're right, even I missed the fact that they were shipping those jobs to the Philippines. So maybe they got the best of both worlds because no people didn't really notice.
Oh, I think they didn't. I think they didn't. Um, and what's interesting, if you remember a few short months ago, Uber was valued, their stock was something like $24. Today they closed at $40.92.
Mm-hmm.
They are getting closer and closer and closer to what when the price of the stock at the rollout, which I know is kind of a weird thing to say. Hey, we're going to get right up to where we were when we bought the stuff. That's really nobody's goal for stock pricing. But man, when you think about how it dropped so significantly, and what's happening, is it because they're saving money? I just don't see how laying off 80 people can have that much of an impact on a
Well,
$70 billion company, but maybe I'm missing something.
well, I've actually talked about this quite a bit because I'm doing more stock stuff on my channel. Check out
Mhm.
my Robinhood series, everyone. How to make money on Robinhood. But well, that's not what it's called. It's called making money on Robinhood anyway. But anyway. So first of all, yes, when they sell businesses, when they lay people off, obviously they're tightening the belt because one thing that they're showing with each loss, it's like, yes, there's a loss, but it's been a smaller loss than before. So that suggests that they're going towards profitability, even though you and I have been watching these losses for years. We know that's not what it means. But the other
Right.
thing that the CEO of Uber, and I don't know if he knows something I don't know, but he said that they believed they would become profitable by the end of this year. Now, that will inspire a lot of confidence with investors because it's almost like putting your job on the line. Because if you don't hit that goal, the shareholders can and most likely will revolt. So you don't say something like that unless you typically have an idea. Although, as I explained in another video, and I don't have the article in front of me, but someone pretty much explained that they can spin that like, hey, we're profitable by the end of the year on the EBITDA scale, which isn't real profits from Wall Street standards, but they can spin it however they want. Kind of like how we love them, but Disney spins every little bit of bad news like, we're not price gouging you when we raise the tickets. We're trying to thin the herd. And it's like, no, you're not. You're ripping us off to a certain extent. And that's what Uber's trying to do. But it's interesting that we're talking about the stock. This wasn't going to be a topic, but today, Seeking Alpha, which is one of the most respected stock news and speculation websites out there, they actually penned an article today called Overhyped Uber Technologies Should Currently Trade Below $20 due to many reasons. And I won't read the whole thing because I kind of want to make a separate video about this. But the bullet points were Uber has been reporting massive losses while burning cash with no end in sight, primarily due to fierce competition, low margin businesses, and lack of economies of scale. The second point they made was also Uber's rides, its core business, is facing serious challenges in its core market because the gig economy is under attack by regulators worldwide, which has been downplayed so far. In fact, we're going to pause for a second. I know we're kind of getting off topic, but why are the investors downplaying AB5 and all the potential regulation that's coming up in these states?
Boy, that's anybody's guess. I think they see Uber winning. This is something I know we weren't going to get into either, but let's face it. Everybody was, a lot of the Uber tubers are saying, just wait until January 1st. The world's going to change. We're suddenly going to have leverage. Here we are 2 months into the new year. Almost nothing has changed. Now, I know people are going to say, what are you talking about, Mark? Look at all the changes. But the changes have not been effective for drivers. Like when they said, well, we're going to give drivers an opportunity now to set their own rates. What a disaster that turns out to be. So
because they also let them set the rates much lower than what Uber.
well, they did because they wanted to say you can set your own rates, and that goes in both directions, up and down.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess my larger point is that with all this stuff going on, Uber manages to stay ahead of it. Uber really, when AB5 took effect nearly 2 months ago, Uber didn't take a drastic hit. Uber is working just like it has been in California. So I don't think that people are seeing this as being something that is really hurting them. They keep seeing ridership go up, and they keep seeing a relatively young company that has a bright future. They're probably saying, yeah, I'll take a chance on this one.
Well, and also because, and there is some logic to this. They know that Uber and Lyft are going to continue to challenge it. I fully believe that in California, they will get they will get a bill, a proposition for people to vote on to overturn AB5. Some of the people in my district, actually, before we talked, someone for one of our local district people, I forgot what position she was in, she's running on opposing AB5. I think a lot of investors are hoping that people will overturn it. And you know what? They have a real reason to believe, because I keep telling people, I predict this is how the ads are going to go. You're going to have like the somber music, and there's going to be like either a male or a female saying in a low voice, AB5 is bad for riders and drivers. Riders pay more money for commuting to work, money they desperately need for food and medical, and drivers never see that money. Vote yes on Proposition so-and-so and have AB5 overturned. And people will probably vote to overturn it. And I think investors are betting on that.
Well, you could be right. You could be right. But I don't know. I think that we can, we can second guess the stock market forever. If I knew what was going on there, I'd be rich instead of doing this.
You should be watching my videos. I've gained over $200 in the last week on just like some meager investments. But the interesting thing about this Seeking Alpha article, they list like 3 other bullet points, but we'll jump to the last one. This person who has apparently written for this site for 12 years and personally has over 12,000 followers on the site, because you can follow individual analysts if you happen to trust them more than others. Their conclusion was Uber is an overhyped stock that could end up being another fad, with its shares going to zero or almost zero in the next 5 years. Same like Sidecar. Stay away from this. It's a dog. It's like, that is probably the most scathing review of this company that I've read on a analyst. And of course, yeah, you're right. You can second guess the stock market all you want. I mean, that's why you have an equal number of Uber's in a much better position to be profitable than Lyft, and then you have a bunch of Lyft is in a much better position to be profitable than Uber articles.
And where does Trip fall into this?
Trip.
Forget I asked.
Trip falls into the category that they just keep tripping over themselves.
All right, should we wrap this up with coronavirus?
Let's talk about the coronavirus for a second. That's like a world issue, causing a lot of damage. It means Mulan will get delayed in China, obviously. Okay, that's a bad joke. Sorry, folks. But no, it really is serious. It's got a lot of people are sick, and a lot of people have died, and we don't know where it comes from. Containing it does not seem to be working very well. But it's had, obviously, an effect on Uber drivers in 2 areas. And because I've talked about this extensively, I'll let Mark answer his concerns about it first. But the 2 areas of concern is a lot of Uber and Lyft drivers are saying, is it even safe to drive Uber and Lyft with the coronavirus out there? Because they're picking up strangers. But then the other issue is we've been noticing that a lot more Asian passengers have actually been passed up or told, or if they sneeze, they're told to get out of the car, because drivers are under this misconception that it's an Asian virus, which it really isn't. It originated in China, but there are people in Japan and Canada, and I think Russia has had some cases of coronavirus. And, probably most frightening for me, Orange County, which is like a few miles away from me, had a couple cases reported of the coronavirus. So, Mark, what do you think of these questions on whether or not it's safe to drive Uber and Lyft during this time and how Asian passengers are being treated?
Well, people have asked me this question on my channel because now Mark's Travel Channel, I talk about more than Uber and Lyft, and I travel a lot. I'm on planes and I'm in hotels, and people always ask me that. Are you afraid of contracting this? Are you thinking about wearing a mask when you fly? And the truth is, although it is a major, they're reporting somewhere around 9 now, and who knows if the Chinese government was reporting everything, right? But when in the scheme of things, the amount, the number of people who've contracted this is minuscule. Now that doesn't mean it doesn't mean that it's unimportant and we should ignore it, because it is something that obviously is contagious. From what I've read, however, the jury's still out on whether you can contract it by touching surfaces. They're pretty sure that it's airborne. Someone sneezes, when you inhale that into your lungs, whatever, that is how but it's so new. Who really knows, right? And for me, I don't know. I think that, you have probably, I don't see the numbers, but when you think of the billions of people in the world, and as far as we know, hundreds, maybe a few in the very low thousands have contracted this. You probably have about as good a chance of contracting that as you do getting struck by lightning or winning the lottery. I think that there are probably a lot bigger things to fear in driving with Uber, like maybe getting jacked, getting in a fatal car accident. All of those are far more likely than contracting the coronavirus.
Right. So is catching the flu from a passenger you're picking up from the doctor's office, and the flu is killing more people than the coronavirus this year.
Exactly. So that's my take. In my mind, of course, it depends where you are too. Here in Wisconsin, we have had, I think, 2 cases reported. But, if you're in LA, well, there's far more people if you're in, picking up people at JFK or at LAX or, at some of the major airports that are bringing people in from overseas. And I go to those airports, but I'm not on those flights. So, yeah, you probably have a little higher chance of contracting it as an Uber driver if you're picking up at those airports. But, personally, it wouldn't stop me. It wouldn't curtail my driving or my travel at all.
Right, because you gotta live at some point. If you never go anywhere, fly anywhere, because the plane could crash. It's like, well, yes. In fact, I've actually had this conversation with the in-laws, for example, who justify having weapons in the house because they could be robbed and shot. And if they're watching this is not a slight on them, but I've asked them, well, do you think twice about getting in the car and driving? And the answer is no. It's well, you're far more likely to die in a car accident than someone breaking into your house and shooting you. So I kind of feel that way about the coronavirus. Now, it is disappointing to hear that a lot of Asian passengers are getting passed up and basically discriminated against because people think this is an Asian virus. And of course, in America, there's a lot of people with Asian heritage who've never been to China or Japan or Philippines or whatever. And it seems like that. I'm sure you're going to state the obvious, but obviously you probably feel that's wrong, right?
Well, yeah, again, I wonder how much is this really happening? If some idiot is turning down a ride because of that, they probably turn down rides for a lot of other stupid things, if they really do that, they're probably turning down rides just because they're racist. They're probably, who knows the stupidity. But how widespread is that? Are people really not accepting rides from agents, or has it happened one or two times and it gets blown up because it is such a weird thing? Just to think that anyone would base their decision to pick someone up on that, it seems just so strange to me that I just wonder if it's one of those unicorn stories that just gets amplified.
Yeah. Although the fear seems to be real. My wife called in sick one day, and I don't know who responded. Well, actually I do, but I don't want to throw that information out there. And they call it was like, yeah, I'm sick today. And the person said, the coronavirus? And she was like, no, the flu. So it is, people are freaking out about it. I've even seen some videos from fellow Uber tubers like saying, wait, are we Uber tubers anymore? Because I'm talking about things that are, I mean, we're doing this podcast, but I mean, I'm talking about Amazon and Disney Plus and Netflix and Robinhood these days, and you're just traveling. Are we still Uber tubers? Maybe that should be a topic.
I am never going to let go of Uber tuber. I coined the phrase, and I am going to hang on to that sucker as long as I can. I still have Ride Day Friday, and yeah, I'm still an Uber tuber.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I am as well. I don't know. That we'll have to ask that in a few months, see what happens to the channel in that time. But yeah, who knows? This might have been a case where maybe it happened to a few people, and then they talked to CNN, and CNN blew it up because 24-hour news cycle. I'm definitely thinking 24-hour news was a mistake. There's not.
Yeah, they really do grasp at straws for stories, don't they?
There is not anything that significant happening 24 hours a day. So
yeah, when they start reporting on little personal feuds between Nancy Pelosi and Trump, that there's not a lot going on.
I mean, geez, I wonder. I mean, this is not to excuse the man, but geez, I have to wonder if there was no 24-hour news cycle, how bad would Trump really come off if we didn't have to see him all day? I don't know.
Well, yeah, and would tearing up a piece of paper be as big a story as it was too? You never know.
Probably not, but I don't know.
But let's not turn this into a political channel,
let's not. Again, I want to keep my subscribers as
right.
Although I've been called a right-wing nut job and a libtard, so clearly I'm complicated.
Okay, compared to that, Mr. Rogers of YouTube doesn't seem so bad.
No, it really doesn't. I'm just gonna, just file it next to the other nicknames I've been given. Cartman. When I was a kid, my nickname was Hey Kid Move. So it just rack them up. But anyway, so we've talked about the topics. Now, one thing that I need to talk to the viewers about real quick. Normally at the end of the podcasts, we used to do like a live Q&A, and we're working to get that back. But for the time being, we're having issues, and we haven't figured out what those issues are, especially since I'm paying for this program. This is like the first time I've not been able to go live with Mark or Cecily or Mike. I've been able to go live with everyone else. So here's what we're going to do. We don't have any Q&As this episode. However, because the algorithm loves comments and you want to get your questions answered, please comment below what your questions would be. And until we get this situation resolved, I will comb through and I will pick a few questions from this particular video that you leave in the comments that we will try to address next time, which probably won't be too far because March is coming up really soon, and I'd like to get the gang all together again.
Kevin, could I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Perhaps if we can release this as a premiere, and we could be there in the premiere chat room as well, and that would be a good way to have some Q&A.
Yeah, but people really like it in video formats. So, I mean, of course, this is premiering right now if you're watching this, but I mean, I've got stuff to do in the day. You've usually got stuff to do in the day. So
This is so important to me. I'll make sure I'm there.
yeah. Okay. Well, this will go up at 7 a.m. tomorrow, which doesn't mean anything to any of you watching this right now. But for the time being, like, I will pick a few questions, and I'm sure there's something. We just got to figure out what it is, and then we can do. Because I actually kind of I like doing the Q&A at the end. It's actually one of the highlights I feel for the of the podcast, and one of the reasons everyone tunes in. But the next episode we should have Cecily back, and we will have a guest co-host, and we will discuss Mike's departure, because we have heard from him, but I kind of want everyone to be there before we talk about that in depth. So anyway, let's see. We talked about the coronavirus. We talked about autographed movie posters. The safety feature. Geez, was there anything else we wanted to talk about? Are you sure you don't want to comment on the Disneyland ticket prices? They really pissed me off when I found it was more than $200 to go to one day at Disneyland.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't go to Disneyland, of course, but I go to Walt Disney World, and my annual pass comes up in April. So maybe my ire will be up then.
Okay.
But I have to agree with you. You know, if all they want to do is reduce the number of people that come in, they can do that just by, limiting, hey, park's full today. And, the other thing that I've noticed, and I know people, we're losing them now, but what I notice is they have more and more and more hard ticket events. And those things are getting so crowded. Sometimes the hard ticket events are busier than just the regular, daily attendance.
Mm-hmm.
And they are making so much money on those things. So
it's not just
greed is pervasive within the Walt Disney Company. I cannot deny that, but I still like Disney.
Yeah, I like Disney too. I think that's why it annoys me. It makes me so upset. I hate the fact that they're pricing me out of it. And I'm not poor by any means, but they just raised everything, the parking. And I don't know if this bothers you. I know you're not on Twitter probably, but
I'm on Twitter. You don't get my Twitter feed?
No, I don't.
All right.
I guess I should find you and follow.
Average Mark 100.
Okay.
Mark at Average Mark 100. Or I'm sorry, Average Me 100.
Average Me 100. Okay. I read these tweets where people are like, well, it sucks that Disney is raising the prices, but I will forever hold my pass. I know some people are going to take this the wrong way, but I feel like Mr. Potato Head, like, are you all taking stupid pills this morning? Like, you say things like that. That's like saying, yeah, take advantage of me. I don't care. Like, no, maybe you should at the very least say, I'm going to think before I renew my pass. At least get that far. Don't say, yeah, charge me whatever you want. But, now I'm getting, and yeah, we're losing everyone at this point because no one here except for maybe Ryan cares. So anyway, folks, that's where we're going to leave this episode. Thank you for listening, tuning in, commenting. If anyone sent a super chat, I can't watch it because it's not live. We appreciate it, but we appreciate all the support. We will be back soon. Check out Mark's travel time. You already are at the Apptrepreneur, unless Mark ever decides he wants to upload this on his channel as well. Then I'm the Apptrepreneur, and he's also got the Average Me channel, and I've got the Autograph Hound channel. So and the vlog channel. So you know the drill. Like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, blame responsibly. Have a good one.
So long, everybody.